Story 1. In the dark streets of London, where crime reigns supreme, a series of enigmatic murders spread terror among the inhabitants of Summer House. Duchesne and Sully, the undisputed leaders of local drug trafficking, found themselves plunged into an unexpected nightmare. It all began with macabre warnings. Cryptic messages were left at the scene of each crime, suggesting that the victims were paying for the sins of their past. Rumors spoke of a vengeful spirit, a ghost of crime seeking justice in a manner as brutal as it was supernatural. Duchesne and Sully, initially skeptical of these warnings, soon witnessed strange phenomena. Shadows seemed to move on their own, ghostly whispers in deserted alleys, and nightmarish visions haunted their nights. The ghosts of their own crimes seemed to be chasing them. As the murders multiplied, the two ruthless criminals began to question the nature of their own existence. Their consciences, long suppressed by the world of crime, awakened with an unexpected force. They wondered if the vengeful spirits were real, or merely a reflection of their own inner torments. The investigation led them to sinister places in Summer House, revealing long-buried secrets and alliances woven in the shadows. They discovered that a former member of their gang, thought dead for years, was behind this supernatural vendetta. This member, returned from the dead in a mysterious way, was determined to cleanse the community of the crime that plagued it. The final confrontation took place in an abandoned warehouse, a place that had become the stage for their intertwined destinies. The Revenant, animated by a supernatural force, faced Duchesne and Sully in an intense duel where the past and present merged in a spectral manner. In the end, the Revenant managed to open the eyes of Duchesne and Sully to the devastating consequences of their actions. The ghost vanished into the darkness, leaving the two criminals haunted by the reality of their own humanity. Summer House, though liberated from supernatural influence, still bore the scars of a night of horror and redemption. The legend of the vengeful spirit persisted in the streets of London, reminding everyone that even crime kings were not exempt from justice, even if it came from beyond the grave. Story 2. In the misty and inhospitable streets of Summer House, a new scourge befell the already troubled community. A series of mysterious disappearances struck the most vulnerable members of society, primarily children and teenagers. Duchesne and Sully, the leading figures in the drug trade, found themselves facing an unknown enemy that shook the very foundations of their criminal empire. Witnesses of the disappearances spoke of an elusive shadow, a hooded figure that slinked through the darkness of the night. Rumors circulated in the community, suggesting the existence of a supernatural entity thirsting for innocent souls. Some spoke of an ancient curse linked to a once-fallen drug dealer returning to haunt the community. Duchesne and Sully, initially reluctant to believe in supernatural forces, were forced to confront the inexplicable. Strange visions haunted their nights, sinister whispers resonated in the dark alleys, and mysterious markings appeared on the walls, foreshadowing a dire fate. The investigation led them to a former associate of the duo, a drug dealer whose downfall had been hastened by their own ambition. It was said that his awakened vengeance, emerging from the darkness, took the form of an evil entity devouring innocence. As the disappearances reached a peak, Duchesne and Sully found themselves face to face with the supernatural entity in an abandoned place, charged with an unhealthy energy. A mystical duel ensued, testing the criminals' resolve against a force that transcended human understanding. Ultimately, with a necessary sacrifice and a spiritual confrontation, Duchesne and Sully succeeded in releasing the tormented soul of their former associate. The evil entity dissipated into the air, leaving behind an aura of fleeting peace. The streets of Summer House remained silent, but the lesson was clear. Sins of the past could manifest in unexpected forms, and even kings of the street could be confronted by forces that transcended the tangible world. In the darkness of the night, the Summer House community began to rebuild, aware that true horror could reside in inner demons, whether human or supernatural in origin. Story 3 years later, after surviving the occult pact, Duchesne and Sully believed the worst was behind them. However, a new threat loomed in the shadows, taking the form of an enigmatic group of children known as the Children of Twilight. These children, once orphans from the streets of Summer House, had witnessed the occult ritual. Infused with mystical energy, they had developed strange powers and were now seeking justice in a very particular way. Their eyes gleamed with an unsettling glow, and whispers of vengeance echoed through the streets. Disappearances began again, but this time, It was the hardened criminals of Summer House who were targeted. Duchesne and Sully, haunted by their past, found themselves prey to invisible attacks and disturbing illusions orchestrated by the Children of Twilight. The final confrontation took place in an abandoned park, where the Children of Twilight revealed their intentions. They sought to balance the mystical energies corrupted by the past ritual by eliminating those they deemed agents of chaos. Duchesne and Sully had to confront the reality of their own past actions as the Children of Twilight executed their unique vision of justice. In the final moments, a glimmer of empathy shone in the eyes of the two criminals, realizing that true horror sometimes lay in the unforeseen consequences of their choices. Summer House once again bore the scars of a night where darkness and light intertwined inextricably. Story 4. Certainly here's a horror story inspired by the Top Boy series on Netflix, featuring the character Jimmy. Once upon a time, in the dark and ruthless streets of Summer House, a neighborhood in London where alleys were haunted by malevolent shadows and walls told tales of betrayal, Jimmy, the fallen king of crime, sought redemption after a life spent in the shadows of drug trafficking. After leaving the world of organized crime, Jimmy settled in a run-down apartment atop a dilapidated building. He sought peace, but the past refused to leave him in peace. Whispers from the alleys seemed to follow him everywhere, like crime ghosts seeking vengeance. On a rainy evening, as Jimmy tried to find sleep, strange shadows danced on the walls of his apartment. Unsettling whispers filled the air, revealing secrets he would have preferred to forget. Suddenly, a familiar silhouette emerged from the darkness. Duchesne, his former crime partner. "You can't escape, Jimmy," Duchesne whispered with an icy voice. "The past never dies." Terrified, Jimmy sought refuge in the streets of Summer House. The alleys had become dark corridors leading to his ominous fate. At every street corner, shadows took shape, resembling those he had betrayed in his ruthless criminal life. As he wandered in the darkness, Jimmy heard sinister laughter and muffled cries. Vengeful spirits of those he had left behind seemed to pursue him, seeking retribution for past wrongs. Familiar faces, now distorted by anger, silently accused him of his sins. Eventually, Jimmy found himself in front of the old hideout where he had once ruled as a crime lord. The abandoned building was imbued with the dark aura of his past. As he entered, the doors creaked shut behind him with an ominous groan. Inside, shadows from the past materialized. Spectral figures of his former associates and rivals surrounded him. Each bore the scars of betrayal, wounds inflicted by Jimmy's choices. Their lifeless eyes gleamed with a supernatural light, demanding justice. "Will you be able to redeem yourself, Jimmy?" Duchesne whispered, his face contorted with an eternal hatred. Jimmy fought for his life, confronted by nightmarish visions of his past. Every dark corner revealed a painful memory. Every whisper was an accusation. Tension mounted as darkness devoured his tormented soul. The next morning, the residents of Summer House found Jimmy's apartment empty. Some say he found redemption, others claim he was taken by the vengeful shadows of his criminal past. Regardless, his story would forever haunt the alleys of Summer House, where crimes of the past merged with supernatural horror.